us here, and I'm excited that he's able to join us in the studio for this conversation. We have Dr. Ahmed Adamu with us here. He's a petroleum economist with the Nile University. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, then. So, the oil, some people, I was talking with someone like, I don't get it. How is coronavirus causing us to panic and thinking about adjusting and all this talk about the recession? Let's find the correlation.
Yes, we live in a global village.
Yeah.
Where one thing that happens in one country affects the entire world. So we cannot exclude ourselves from political, economic, and social happenings around the world. And especially if you look at the oil market. Oil market is a global market. And what affects an importer or exporter of the oil can affect the entire market. So both the demand and supply side can affect the price. Yeah. And what we've seen, even prior to the outbreak of coronavirus, what we saw was the global economy was going down. The pace of the economic growth was not attractive, even prior to the outbreak. And even at that time, countries were very ambitious to raise revenue to fund their physical plans. And so there were a lot of pumping of crude oil into the market prior to the outbreak. And suddenly the outbreak came, and now China said, we have to slow down the economy, we have to reduce transactions, movement, activities, factories shutting down, airports closed down, and movement of people, reduced. And that reduced activity, and that reduced the energy demand. And China, you look at China, how big it is. And that's huge reduction. And that's a big shift inward from the demand side, if you look at it from the curve. So now, if we have reduction in the demand and the supply is already on the high side, what do you have? The intersection will be at a lower price. So the price now started to slump from that time. The oil price started plunging from, I think, late December, and then towards the January. After the time when we had an $11 drop in a day. And the worst drop since 1991 shock. Wow. And that's historically, if you look at this, what's happening within these 3 months, when China said, okay, we are reducing our consumption, and then we already have excess supply. And if you have excess supply, what do you have? The prices keep going down again and again and again. And now, Saudi Arabia, the de facto ruler of OPEC, say, you guys, let's sit down. We don't want prices to keep going down. Yeah. In Nigeria is included. Okay, in Nigeria, you don't want oil prices to come down. What can we do together to raise the price up? Say, okay, let's cut it. Let's cut the production, reduce the excess supply. Maybe the price would then rise above. Okay. And Saudi Arabia has been sacrificing quite a lot, actually. Saudi Arabia, prior to the meeting in March, they cut down 400,000 barrels per day. Oh. So they've been doing their own part prior to that March meeting, OPEC meeting. So now they say, okay, we need more reduction. We need more cut in production. What Saudi Arabia and OPEC suggested was 1.5 million barrels per day cut for 3 months, running up to June this year. So let's have reduction. Countries that are producing oil, now 300 million barrels in a day, and let's cut 1.5 million for the period of 3 months up to June. And then, OPEC, we contribute 1 million of it. And our allies like Russia, let's contribute your own 500,000. Let's sacrifice. You benefit. Higher oil price, you produce little, but you get more revenue. And Russia is under predicament. Isolated, remote area, losing buyer because of cutting production will cost them a lot. Before you get that buyer's trust back again, it's going to cost them more. And they say, no, we are afraid. We don't want to lose market share. Okay. Because this competition between Russia, USA, and Saudi Arabia to win the market share is always there. But it's always affecting the price and affecting countries like Nigeria. They say if two elephants are fighting, the grass suffers. So what happened is Russia said, I cannot cut my production. You are on your own. Yeah. So they went out of the meeting. They said, no, we are not going to cut the production. What they said, Russia, they claim that even if its price going to slump to $25 per barrel, we are okay. okay.
That's what Russia is
Yeah,
saying.
Russia say, okay, we are okay, $25 per barrel, $25 per barrel. Yes, we continue producing. We make profit. But what about below that? Are you with me? So what about below $25?
Yeah.
And then Saudi Arabia say, okay, you don't want to cut production? Okay, I know what to do. And now they start the price war. Saudi Arabia say, now, okay, I'm going to pump more of my oil. My oil is cheaper because I have low marginal cost. And in the supply schedule, all the time, Saudi Arabia will be called upon to sell first before any other country because they had the lowest marginal cost of production. And they said, okay, I'm going to pump more of my oil. And if I pump more of my oil at Saudi Arabia, and I even discount it further, now the buyers that go to Russia, now the Russia are afraid to protect, they're afraid that they don't want to lose them.
Not be hospitalized.
And now we have to now come and buy from Saudi Arabia. And if Russia produces oil and there are no buyers, will they produce again? So they're forcing Russia to cut their production. And that's what Saudi Arabia wants. Because Saudi Arabia say, I'm not in the fight for market share. My job is to protect the price stability. And because I'm carrying burden, responsibility, OPEC member countries, they rely so much on me, I have to just forget. Because if I have to go for the fight or to win the market share, the whole world will not enjoy it. So Saudi Arabia are not interested in winning the market share. What they want is just stabilize the price. Let everyone be happy. And they say, okay, if you don't want that, now I'm going to target the price. I want to put this price down.
Just a lot of it.
Yeah, so that I will see if you can produce. Well, so the USA is not an ally to the OPEC. USA was not even involved or consulted in that deal. But now, because of the action of Saudi Arabia, which if you look at the trend, the oil price trend, within the last 3 months, you will see from the time when Saudi Arabia declared this price war, how the price keep dropping drastically. I was writing that article, and I was shocked. I had to keep updating the article. When I checked, it was 50. Later, second day 2, 40, and then I had to keep looking at the website, how oil price was changing just like rapidly, and it was shocking. I think this is one of the most recent oil shock, price shock we had in recent history. So, what if you look at that sharp reduction? Like I told you, $11 drop in a day per barrel since 1991, and that's the effect of Saudi Arabia's action.
Yeah.
So now, even USA, they cannot produce because USA, most of their reserves are now shale oil and gas reserves, which means you have to use fracking system to tap the trapped oil.
Okay.
And that will require extra money. So their marginal cost is high. They spend more per barrel to extract it. And which means if price is now 30, less than 30, America will not make profit. And America started closing their own wells because some of their wells are onshore. So onshore reserves are easy to be flexible. You can on and off your onshore wells looking at the price, based on the price, because onshore wells then give you much more yields compared to the offshore. The offshore will wait for the longer time. But onshore fields are likely to be flexible. You can on it and you can off it looking at the price. Because if you produce onshore at certain price, you may lose because it doesn't have a lot of quantity. So now America started shutting down their production, and now Venezuela started meeting with I think Russia and say, okay, how can you contribute? I think was this Russia or Saudi Arabia? I forgot the news I read. But there's a lot of panic. Countries like Venezuela, they have higher margin. If you look at the schedule, the marginal cost schedule for the supply, Venezuela is on top there. And look at the deficit. And even our country like Nigeria now, we anticipated oil price to be $57 per barrel. And how much deficit do we have? Now, Nigerian Bonny Light is sold $33 per barrel. And you just deduct it. It's more than $22 per barrel deficit.
Indeed.
Which means if you anticipate $57 for each barrel, now you are getting 22. If I say I'm going to give you a salary each day, 57, maybe whatever figure, 1,000 or let's say 57 naira.
22.
Now I'm giving you 22. And you already plan how to spend your money. I'm supposed to give you 57,000. Let's put it in thousand to make sense. $57,000 That's 57,000 naira to make more sense out of it. And now I'm giving you 22. Sorry, I'm giving you 33. That's a deficit. And now, good news for Nigeria. Well,
but okay, it's interesting that you're saying good news here, because I know that there was a meeting and a committee set up to look at this and see how we respond to this global power play between Saudi Arabia, Russia, and the United States here.
Who said the committee? Nigeria?
But we're already looking at cutting down our budget and adjusting to it, because we're heavily dependent on oil.
Yeah.
All of these things you're talking about is affecting us. We're feeling the pinch.
Yes. Yeah, it's affecting the physical performance of the Nigeria. Okay. I told you the expected revenue from the oil now is shrinking continuously. Now, our deficit was billed for 2 trillion, 2 point something trillion naira. And now, you can imagine, it's double of that.
Yeah.
Now, for us to really fund the ambitious 2020 fiscal plan, which means we have to borrow. And borrowing is killing us.
Wow.
For how many times? You look at the budget. Anytime you look at the budget, you see budget debt servicing. Debt servicing is killing us.
Yeah.
We are afraid. We don't want to fall into sovereign defaults, where we cannot pay our debt and compromising future growth. Our children will not forgive us for what we are doing. We should not just be looking at now. We should look at the future. Now, if you look at the oil market, both in spot, futures, and forward market, Nigerian Bonny Light is the most expensive in the world right now.
Okay.
It's 33. Right. Even Brent is sold at, when I last checked, around $30 per barrel. And now Nigerian Bonny Light is the most expensive in the world. You know, it's not surprising, because we have one of the sweetest and the lightest oil in the world. But unfortunately, we export the crude oil, the good one. They refine it and use it over there. And they bring to us, through importation, the bad oil. Refined oil from the heavy and sour oil, maybe extracted from other countries, like I think the Mexico, even Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is a medium quality. I think I can remember in the chat, Mexico is up there. Like some oil are not of good quality.
No, Dr. Let understand. So we export our crude, which is one of the finest in the market.
Yes, and then they refine it over there and use it over there. And then the same refinery will buy another person's crude oil that is of a lower quality than our own, refine that lower quality crude oil, and we import that lower quality oil. That's why when you put this kind of low quality oil in your car, when you pass it by, you perceive some odor.
But don't we call it the premium motor spirit because it's premium?
What that quality stands for? Quality?
Premium quality.
We cannot control quality if you cannot refine it by ourselves.
Oh, wow.
Because we are using other people's refined petroleum. And if you look at our import basket, one of the things that costs us more in terms of foreign exchange or cost for importation is refined petroleum. We spend more than any other imported commodity. We spend on petroleum more than any other imported commodity or product. So this is a shame for our country. And this is time for us to face the consequences for our failure to even just build a refinery. Talking of this overflocked diversification. Even yesterday, people are asking me, then what is the diversification? How do you diversify? Which sector? How long will it take us to diversify? Now we are panicking. We are crying. We are supposed to diversify when we are at ease. In this room, in this radio station, I said, a president said Nigeria's problem before Nigerian problem was not money, but how to spend the money.
A long time back, yes.
Yes. But if as a leader, as a country, we have money, but we don't know what to do with the money, and we are subsidizing consumption since that time. We have agriculture. We're still using traditional agriculture. It is not competitive. If for you to put 1 million in your if you put 1 million in your agriculture or in your farm, it will give you less yield. What I'm saying is, if you have two options, put your money in agriculture or put your money elsewhere, even if it is a bank, you will have more yield anywhere else than agriculture. Now, agriculture, we said contribution of agriculture is 22. That 22, right? Contribution to GDP. Yeah. But that's consumed within Nigeria. And agriculture is contributing how much to our export? Nearly zero. nearly zero.
Well, we've not really started
because
taking our rights,
if you look at the chart, 95% of our export is petroleum, and only 5% are shared among other products, rubber, whatever, little things, cocoa, and then I don't even know where if we do agricultural export at all. And if agriculture cannot assume minimal of 30% of our export, then we are not ready for diversification.
But we export things like cassava, cowpea, and the likes. But how significant it is?
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. 5%.
Wow.
95% of our export. And how can you rely or put your economy on a pillar that is contributing only 5% of your export annually, assuming that 5% entirely is agriculture?
Yeah.
So it's very, very insignificant. So agriculture is really not competitive. You have to attract people into agriculture. So you have to have a target, and you have to have a roadmap, and you have to have a commitment. We have people that we call them leaders, but the vision is not there. They don't even realize the danger we are in. And we are just doing things like normal things, the way we used to do things. No change. So now this is a time when we have to really face the consequences. Now we can see Nigeria, like the meeting you said there was a meeting in Nigeria. I think Nigeria is not in any strategic position to influence anything when it comes to this oil market, what's happening around the world. The highest thing Nigeria can do is to convince a reconvenance of OPEC meeting. And to do what? To cut production again? While you are having $33 per barrel, and now you cut. Who will agree to that?
Well, what we were doing actually was to see how we adjust our budget, our 2020 budget, to reflect the current reality.
Yes, there's room for that review all the time, but that's the effect of the consequences of relying on the oil revenue, and especially for export earning. But this is affecting not only Nigeria, so we are not the only ones. It's affecting the whole world. The whole world is going down. This is like another global recession on a brink, and we are likely now to see a reversal or coming back of what you call the global economic crisis. And now we've seen how shares are plunging, are going down in values, and people are losing lots of money.
Indeed.
And that's the power of oil. Oil is the one market that affected here once. It affects everyone. Because if all, like I keep saying, this is my rhetoric, this is all I've been saying. If the world is human being, then the blood of that human being is the oil.
All right. We'll go on a quick break. We'll go on a quick break and let that sink in. And when we return, we'll continue the conversation and look at what's the way out for us right now. I know this might be the wrongest time to do the planning, but
but there's some emergency.
Exactly.
Measures, yes.
All right then. So let's come back looking at that after the break.
They are the ones making things happen. They love their country, but also love every opportunity to explore. They travel as often as they can, whether for business or learning or pleasure. They are fly. They are Nigerians, and now they fly Nigerian with Airpeace. From Lagos to UAE, every Friday, Sunday, and Tuesday, in the best comfort, enjoying the kind of food and in-flight.
Coronavirus spiraled into this whole oil crisis that we have in our hands at the moment, and how it affects the global scene and Nigeria in particular. We've been talking with Dr. Ahmed Adamu, petroleum economist, Nile University, and it's an eye-opening conversation really as to where we stand. But Danny asked the question off air. I think we should take a swing at it.
Yes, I wanted to know the relationship between what is going on right now and the reduction in petrol pump price. Like the Minister of State has said, that consultations are ongoing to decide if the pump price of petrol will be reduced. This, he said, is related to the drop in the crude oil prices. As at 9 a.m. on Friday, he said Brent crude, which is the global benchmark, was trading at $34.88 per barrel. Now, if we're saying on one hand that there is a problem with the price drop and it may affect the economy, on the other hand, we're saying the finished product for us may just come down. I mean, they're predicting 104.97. And Nigerians will just be happy if that if that happens. What's the relationship?
If you buy bread and if the price of flour drops, will the price of bread drop?
Yes.
And that's what we're happening. That's what we are seeing now. So this is a period of under recovery, meaning that if government is going to continue to sell oil petrol per liter, they sell it 145, which means government is making extra profits from citizens. And what government is supposed to do is to at least equate the pump price near the refining cost. Now, if you have a refinery and you buy cheap crude oil, wouldn't you say that refined petroleum cheaper? Mm-hmm. And that's what we buy from. We buy from the refineries, and refineries are now finding it very easy for them to refine, because the raw material, the commodity they refine is cheaper now. So if we are importing from a refiner or from a refinery, it means that we are going to buy it cheaper. And if we import refined petroleum cheaper, we have to sell it cheaper. And that's the promise TNNPC made. They say, okay, we are going to keep changing the peg price, responding to the market situation. And it's the first time we're having a deduction. The minister said we should prepare for the tough time, right?
Yeah.
And where were the good times when the oil price was high? No one will ask. So what they're doing is to align the markets, especially the petrol price at the filling station, so that if crude oil price is dropping, we should see a drop in our filling stations. And in Europe, in other developed world, we are seeing drastic reduction in petrol price.
Pump price
In filling stations. And now this is even lagging in Nigeria. Like, why is it now? You're supposed to see reduction since from January. Maybe the government
is... Isn't it as an effect of the example, subsidy, maybe?
Yeah, you know, when oil price was up close to 70, and at that time, the cost of importation was around 168 naira per liter. The landing cost. And if we sell it 145, which means government is paying subsidy.
Yeah.
But now the cost of importing it, or the landing cost, is around maybe 100 or below 100.
Okay.
And then why will we be paying 145? Who are we subsidizing? Then we are giving government the money. And this administration say there is no subsidy. And they're just confusing themselves. There is subsidy and we're paying subsidy. Oh, there is no subsidy today, tomorrow there is subsidy. We don't know which one are doing. So there is no specificity in what we are doing. So we have to be decisive in what we do, and we have to stick to one policy.
What do we do now?
So it's not surprising. Mm-hmm. We should see this long before now. What we should do?
Yes. How do we move from here?
Oil shock or oil volatility is not something we can get rid of.
Yeah.
This is natural nature, or that's the nature of the oil. Oil was not volatile. First phase. Second phase was volatile, but the third phase we are now is very volatile. And today you can see oil 33.
Yeah.
When we wake up tomorrow, it can rise to 70. Even though before we see the effect of any cut, it has to take a time lag of 2 to 3 months. You cannot just reduce production today and prices go up.
Okay.
Though some markets are spot market, we can see immediate increase, but we are going to see response. But for us to stabilize and to clear the excess inventories or excess supply, it has to take at least a month or two. So people say even 3. So let's see what happened. The volatility, there's nothing we can do about it. That's why we said we have to have another pillar of our economy so that it becomes our shock observer.
Indeed.
And if oil is this volatile and to continue to be volatile, and maybe it's the end of era of oil. People are now losing
thinking
hope.
Outside the box.
And oil is losing its appeal. It's losing its fame. And it's giving way and providing incentives for maybe renewables. Mm-hmm. But renewables are, what is the pace of their growth? And how reliable are they? And what is their cost or capital cost? Renewables have huge capital costs. And affording that requires a lot of investment. And we have the money to do that. And so we have to lead. Even within our energy sector, we have to diversify within the energy sector. So it's not that we are leaving energy sector, we close, and then we go to manufacturing, industry, agriculture. No, we need all the sectors to support each other.
Yeah, complement.
So we are not closing energy sector. If we are leading during oil era, we should lead post-oil era. Now, which fuel is coming next? Is it natural gas? Are we going to see reversal of the fortune of coal? Because there are new technologies that capture the CO2, the greenhouse gases from coal usage. Or are we going to have natural gas? I mentioned natural gas. I think we have comparative advantage over natural gas. In my article, I mentioned that because we have more gas reserve, more than any other country in Africa. And we flare it, we lose a lot of money from gas flaring. And what gas can do, what oil can do, gas can do it. And we now have GTL, gas to liquid. The petrol used in your car, we can get it from gas. We do synthetic gas, and from synthetic gas we can come with any sort of product we want. Technology has made it possible. Go to Qatar, you see big GTL plants. Now electricity we are talking about, and now we are talking about electric cars. Electric cars coming into the discussion. And now the reason why oil became the king was because its convenience and comfortability for transportation. And now countries, after having this public transportation, reducing per capita energy consumption, now they have electric cars that you can charge and then use them for transportation purposes. And that reduces the demand for oil for transportation and remove transportation demand out of oil consumption. Oil becomes nothing. So now the demand is for electricity. And now if you have natural gas, we can produce more electricity. We can improve our service sector. Service sector includes supplying electricity to our neighboring countries. We have big wires, long wires, sending electricity to Ghana, to Benin, to Cotonou, to all these major cities. We can export services through electricity supply. And we can even lay down pipelines and export natural gas. And we can now make our thermal station. We can have spread gas plants, thermal plants. Now thermal plants are now concentrated in few regions, a few places. Now we can have it scattered across the country and makes the transportation, the electricity lost along the transmission system. We reduce that, and that's I think the advantage of natural gas. And I think it's not that I'm thinking, it is environmentally friendly compared to all other fossil fuels. So I think for me, because I'm a petroleum economist, I will still have to see what we can do within the energy sector, shifting away from. I'm sure very soon the price of natural gas will get uncoupled from the oil price. And people start making strategic investment in natural gas. And now that's what's happening. That's the case of oil now. Oil is the target. And I would say at least so natural gas. Oh, we don't want you, but you are here. What do you do with you? Flare you. But now people start targeting
that's the Nigerian mentality.
Yes, Nigerian mentality. Yes, I'm talking about Nigerian perspective. So now, if people start looking at the natural gas. Now, even if you find oil in the future, you say, oh, we used to like it before, but now we don't want it. Okay, now we go for natural gas, build natural gas processing plant, gas pipeline, more thermal station, pipelines exporting it, electricity supplying. So that's within an energy sector. And then outside energy sector, we should have other pillars. And I suggested agriculture, industry, and service sector. Service sector, I talk about electricity, I talk about it. And if you can use natural gas to supply more electricity, we can even export that.
To neighboring
telecommunication, technology, these are all potentials we can lead in these areas. And countries are even going for energy conservation and efficiency. How much energy you use in a car is reducing now. And people are having this energy conservation. The electricity, energy consumption in our appliances are reducing. So that reduces the consumption of energy, and that reduces the demand for it. And if you rely so much of it on natural resource sector, I don't think we can go anywhere. And theories have proven that as long as you rely so much on natural resource, your country cannot grow. Because you'll be subjected to volatility.
Indeed. And then you understand how we're panicking right now because of what is going on in the global scene. Back to you. So I just hope that we really take diversifying seriously, and also, even looking within the petroleum sector itself. That's the gas flaring itself. We haven't harnessed the potential
most people don't realize. We need to diversify within the energy sector. Now, if oil is no longer there, is our name going to be anywhere as leading oil or energy, any energy product? Energy
because we
source?
Have gas, we have huge
if we are leading in oil, one of the leading countries in terms of exports, production of oil, we have to lead post-oil era. We have to be the leaders, especially in Africa when it comes to energy sector. So I think gas gives us that opportunity because we have more gas. We have is 4 times more than the oil. If you put it in the equivalent quantity.
Yeah.
So we have gas 4 times more than the oil we have. So,
well, it's a shame that we're not using it right now.
Yeah.
We have to wait to be pressed to the wall to actually do something.
Yeah.
I think, Dr. Kemo, we have to keep you a little extra, a few more minutes, because we need to take calls
Yes,
after the
sure.
news break. But we
Yes.
have someone who's waiting. Let's take a few calls. Let's see. We need to run for the news, but at least we can throw this one in before the news.
Hello.
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 Hello, Danny.
Yes,
Good
welcome.
evening. Good evening, Kim. Nairobi the talk.
All right, welcome.
Okay, quickly, I want to, since it is obvious that Nigerians don't want to diversify into agriculture. You know, for your guest, you said it that, very few persons have entered into agriculture. Why not look at the other resources that is attached to oil so that we can properly diversify into it, and make some very good money out of it. Instead of this agriculture that we're using to deceive ourselves, that we have diversified for over how many years and we have not seen any possible returns. I think it should just throw more light on that. Thank you.
All right. He did mention that, gas. Let's hear another caller.
Hello. Hello.
Hello, Danny.
Welcome.
How are you?
I'm fine.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, good evening. This is Abubakar calling from Gwagwalada.
All right.
Our diversification drive is empty. This coronavirus profile oil price fall has exposed us. We have not been using our oil wealth to create national wealth for building infrastructures, for building human resources. We have not done that in the past. And up to today, the government is not serious. I will call back.
Okay.
All right.
Because we need to run for the news, and Vivan is warming up for that. And then when we return, we'll take a few more calls and give our guest, Dr. Ahmed Adamu, time to respond to the calls coming in. Here, Victor says, please, Nigeria. And I see some of you still have calls. The phone lines are buzzing again. We'll just take a few, read the rest of the comment, and I'll give our guest time to wrap this conversation up. So 094600951, 0803-123-0293, 0809-5974869.
Hello.
Yeah,
Hello.
good evening.
Good evening.
Danny,
Yeah.
it's Mr. Austin calling. I greet your guest.
okay, thank you.
Sir, I want to say may God bless you.
Thank you.
May God bless you for, giving us the lowdown as it is. Maybe because you don't belong to any political party or sympathizers that do misinform public here. What is the input of this oil to our GDP? What is the percentage, please, sir? We want to know. Then another thing is that, sir, we know that in the northern part of this country, we have vast land. What, hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Please, what is stopping Nigeria from going into agriculture, full-time, mechanized agriculture?
All right.
Okay.
Agriculture, please. Thank you, sir.
All right.
Okay. We'll just note that down and then take another call.
Okay. Hello.
Hello, Danny.
Yeah, welcome.
Yes, my name is Mike.
Okay, could you please speak out a bit, please?
Okay, is it better now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I want to thank the guests for actually doing justice to the topic. But for me, like what I keep hearing says the wind has blown. Those who have been parading themselves in the corridor of our governance all this while, deceiving Nigerians, not doing the right thing, particularly this issue of oil. It surprised some of us when we think about it ourselves. Right from 1958 when we discover oil and start exploration around that period, none of our oil wells has been metered. When they come up every day, say we produce X amount and all X amount, some of us will ask, how did they arrive at those amounts? When we engage in it, they used to count in drums. So the point I'm trying to make in earnest is that all these things that are happening now, like they're saying, wind don't blow, we don't see the other side of the chicken. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Now, amid the oil crisis, the way forward would be to cut the 2020 budget to the essentials and hope we can ride out the storm. Government might also begin to sensitize Nigerians about this, including a possible increase in the pump price of petrol, not decrease, as some may have been saying, including your guest, to 200 naira and above per litre to raise money internally to fund the shortfall in the budget funding. This is not a popular position, but one is just being pragmatic and hard-nosed. That's coming from the Dream Daily. Good afternoon to our guest in the studio, Williams from Gwagwalada. When we as a country refuse to do the right thing and elect the right leaders, we're bound to face economic problems that your awesome guest has explained or is explaining. Look at the disadvantage of not having our own refinery. We produce the finest crude oil use of standard petrol. What an irony. When we had enough money, we did not use it to import things like building a refineries. I never knew we had the best crude. This Bonny Light is the best in the world until today, is what he said. So,
not the best, one of the best.
One of the best.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Okay, I think the Malaysia has one of the best, and then I think Algeria. Yeah. Okay, the guy that talked about GDP, understanding GDP should come first. Then what is GDP? GDP is the good and services value you added within your economy. Good and services, and that industry, oil will fall under industry because mining is also part of industry. And when I just check, although I didn't see the recent data, I forgot the latest data I saw, I think yesterday, about 2019, but what I saw just now is 2018. And what I saw was 18.6% contribution of industry. And industry include the oil and gas. Because it's produced within the country, but though we export it, it's contribute 95% of our export earning, but contribution to GDP is small. But we have service sector, agriculture sector at 22%, I saw. But the GDP is very slow. Yeah. It's very small. Had it been we refining the crude oil, it will have increased that much. So actually the industry is still low. Oil and gas is also considered as industry. So I think, which other comments was...
I think you answered a lot of them when we're talking. Person
yes, yeah. So people are in agreement to,
in spite of.
Yeah. So I think I think this is a wake-up call, I believe, and it's almost coming too late for us because this time when we need to fix insecurity, kidnapping, and all these insecurities, and this is not time for us to start doing trial and error because there's no room for that. We had enough time. We are just chilling, and now we are not hit very hard, and now there's no time for really planning. It's just time for action. We should have planned long before now. We should have looked into the future before now, and now another future is coming. Are we looking into that future? So we should learn. Like someone said, there is no failure. There is only failure to learn the lesson. If you fail, you can only fail if you fail to learn the lesson. So what lessons are we learning? Now, we have to learn that we have to diversify economy, we have to build refineries, and we have to diversify within the energy sector. And the good news is...
somebody was asking with the gas, like, what is it, rocket science to actually diversify and harness what we have?
Yeah, it's more expensive. It's more expensive because laying down the pipelines, and it's fragile, it's gas. It's in gaseous form. And even the LNG, the irony is we have natural gas, but we don't consume it within Nigeria. The little gas we produce, we export it to Europe. And what they do is they compress the natural gas to its 1/600 of its size.
Wow.
Like if you have 600, let's say, quantities of natural gas, now shrink these 600 quantities into a space of one quantity or unit of that. Now compress it, and then you export large amount of natural gas to Europe, and then you regasify it, and then you send it to houses for consumption and for industries. But now here we don't consume it, and there is positive relationship between gas consumption and economic growth. Countries that consume a lot of gas, they grow because it's a feed, it's an input for industrial growth. And I think because even electricity now, is becoming a problem. It's even more expensive for some people to even afford. And we are now sitting on abundant natural gas. And natural gas is very expensive. But if we can produce it on large quantity, we can enjoy the economy of scale, meaning that the average cost will go down and we can sell at cheaper price. So I think, to me, this time for us to know that I so much believe that the next call is natural gas. Before oil was coal. We don't have to wait. We don't have to wait for oil to finish
before we look at other.
Yes, even when coal was displaced, we had more coal at that time than even the oil found at that time. So now we don't have to wait for oil, like I said, to finish. So we can still displace it. Coal is still there. Coal is an option. Even in Nigeria, we don't even exploit it. And now we are still spending 40 billion naira to scout for oil in Bauchi, in northeast. This is not strategic. This is money you can change lives of people. And now you're putting this money on a risk because this is uncertainty. Oil exploration is, and oil is going to be displaced. Instead of you to invest in the next future, now you are investing in the past. Because oil is already a past. With this volatility, with this big shock, people will start to, hey, you guys, we have to do something about it. You remember 1973 oil shock? Yeah. When Arab countries say we are not going to sell oil for you. And liter of oil rose from $3 or $4 to $12. Caused huge shock to Europe. People are queuing. They were Russian. If your plate number ends with even number, now today is your Russian. If it ends with odd number, it's tomorrow. The next day. Can you imagine? Like big shock. And from that time, they say, hey, you guys, we have to come and do something about it. We have to think. So this time for us to think. This is a wake-up call. Hey, wake up. Do something now. Are we doing it? So we have to have leaders with the head. And we cannot say as politicians, we only look into our likes. Leadership, governance is not politics. If you have people with brains, with knowledge, with ideas, you bring them on board. You don't care which party they belong. You don't care which part of the country they belong or which religion they practice. You bring everybody on board. We all belong to Nigeria. Nigeria is our own. Yeah. If you are a politician, you are a leader, you are not leading one particular party. You are leading everybody. So we need everybody on board to save this ship from sinking. Indeed. Yeah. And it needs saving. Yes. Thank you so much, Dr. Ahmed Adamu. I appreciate you for making our time to be with us. Thank you, Kimberly. It's been an eye-opening, interesting conversation with you. And we look forward to having you back in the studio for more. Sure. Dr. Ahmed Adamu is a petroleum economist and presently with the Nile University here in the Federal Capital. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you. All right. We'll take a quick break and...